Okay. Hi, everybody. Well, we have not a ton of people yet, but we know we have a lot of people coming on. So I'm Elaine Ikeda with California Campus Compact, and we're going to wait just another minute or so and give people a chance to log in, and then I'll begin the webinar going over a few logistical things. Thank you for those of you who are on time. And just to make sure you're in the right place, this is the webinar. The topic is Building Institutional Capacity for Service Learning, the Engaged Faculty Institute Curriculum. We've allocated an hour and a half for this webinar. We're going to have an hour of content and then probably about 20 minutes available for you all for Q&A. So, and I'll go over a few logistics. Let's see, what time is it? It's just noon now, so I'm going to wait just another minute or so before I launch into the logistics so that we have more people on at the same time. But if you're just joining us, I'm Elaine Ikeda with California Campus Compact, and we're going to get going in just a little bit. And thank you for joining us. Piper, do you have a number of how many people? I forgot. If you can chat to me how many people so I know how much longer I should hang on. If you're just joining us, this is the webinar on Building Institutional Capacity for Service Learning, the Engaged Faculty Institute Curriculum. And we're going to get started. I think I'm going to go ahead and start going through some of the logistics so that we maximize our time. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Zoom platform, that is what we're using here. And we have muted everybody except for the facilitators and speakers so that we don't pick up a lot of background noise. But if you put your cursor down towards the bottom of your screen, you'll notice in the left-hand corner there's mute and stop video, which you don't really need to worry about. There, you will see at the bottom a Q&A box and also a chat box. So we're going to, as I said earlier, we're going to allow about an hour for the content to be delivered, although we will stop periodically in there to just check in and see if you have any questions. And Katie, our presenter, will answer some of those questions if it's on something she just covered. I'll be monitoring that, so because you're muted, if you have any questions that you want addressed, type them into the Q&A box and I'll be monitoring that. And then if you're having any technical issues, like you can't, on our end that you're noticing, like if we need Katie to speak louder, you could send us a message to just the panelists in the chat box if you need to. So we have, this is a series of webinars that Campus Compact of the Mountain West Campus Compact of Utah and California Campus Compact have joined together to put on for you. We've already done about 4 or 5, and we have a couple more after this coming up. As I mentioned, we're allocating, we have an hour for content and about 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. So I also want to point out to you that up in the right-hand corner, I believe, you should see something called Gallery View. So you can change, right now you're probably seeing my face because I'm talking, but you can always move the window of photos around, because at a certain point you'll be seeing the PowerPoint slides and you don't want to have it blocking what you're seeing on the PowerPoint. So I just wanted to point out that you can move the gallery, the pictures of the presenters around. I want to also let you know that we are recording this webinar, and after the webinar, you will receive an email from Piper, and Piper's also, you're seeing her right now. She is the Associate Director of California Campus Compact, and she will be sending out an evaluation and a link to the recording to those of you who've registered for this this webinar. And I know some of you may be in a room with multiple people viewing it, so if that's the case, then we'd appreciate it if you forward that evaluation out to the others that are with you so that we can get more feedback and on the webinar. So I'm going to introduce, let me just give you a tiny bit of background and then I'll introduce Katie. So it seems like it's been now a couple years ago that California Campus Compact and Campus Compact of the Mountain West partnered up with and worked with CCPH, the Community Campus Partnerships for Health, to redesign and bring up to date the curriculum that they had originally developed called the Engaged Faculty Institute curriculum. In partnership with them, we redesigned the curriculum and made sure everything was much more current, because I think it had been at least a dozen years since that had been published last. So I am really pleased to have Katie Klein-Hesselink with us today to share with you the Engaged Faculty Institute curriculum. She is the Director of Member Services at Campus Compact for the Mountain West, or of the Mountain West, and she has been conducting these, what we call EFI, the Engaged Faculty Institute curriculum. She's been offering trainings and workshops for a while now, so I'm pleased we could have her join us. And Katie, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you if you want to unmute yourself, and we can get started with the webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, Elaine, for that introduction. I appreciate it, and thanks everyone for being here to learn about the Engaged Faculty Institute curriculum. I have a PowerPoint to share, which I'm going to attempt to do now. So let's see if everything works all right. Yes, there it is. Excellent. If this is where you meant to be, then this is where you are. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the Engaged Faculty Institute curriculum that we developed collaboratively with California Campus Compact and Community Campus Partnerships for Health. And I have 3 primary objectives today. Introducing the curriculum itself, which I will share a series of screenshots of different pieces of the curriculum so that you can get an idea of what it looks like and some of the activities that are included within it. We'll explore the curriculum's connection to institutionalizing community engagement, how that's played out on some of our CCMW's member campuses. And then finally, I'll offer a sample model for training Engaged Faculty Institute curriculum facilitators. So that's what I'm planning to do. And I encourage you, if you have questions or need clarification as I'm speaking, please feel free to ask your questions in the question and answer box, and I will do my very best to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I will find out and email you later. So without further ado, a little information on us. So Campus Compact of the Mountain West is a two-state regional compact. We serve 19 colleges and universities across Colorado and Wyoming. And we have traditionally, since I started 6 years ago, we offered the program, the Engaged Faculty Institute, and traditionally this was a 2-day workshop that we put on for all of our member campuses, so community colleges, private institutions, 4 years, land grant, research, very broad array of campuses. And it also required bringing all of our folks together from as far away as Casper, Wyoming, and Durango, Colorado, and that presented some hurdles in terms of program equity. So that's a starting place for CCMW in this process. We had some conversations with California Campus Compact, and through some kismet, it turned out that Piper, who's also with California Campus Compact, was affiliated with CCPH at that time. And as we did, as we were thinking about how we might design program that was more equitable for our campuses, it occurred to us that CCPH already had some really amazing curricula out there through their service learning toolkit for higher education. So our priorities and goals in this process were to build upon these two foundations, the toolkit, the service learning toolkit that CCPH had created, and then this program model of the Engaged Faculty Institute that CCMW had been delivering for 3 or 4 years at this time. We had a few specific aims. We wanted to highlight best practices and innovation within the field. So rather than look just specifically in our region, we wanted to look nationwide for examples of what was going really well for campuses and different institutional types around community engaged work. And we wanted to develop something that might be experienced as a one-stop shop for service learning for any aspect of the process, from just thinking through community partnerships to student cultural competence to risk management, all the way through scholarships. So I'll get into all of that here in a minute. So what's in the curriculum? I will tell you it's 150 pages long, so there's a lot. There's a lot in there. It includes an overview of service learning as a high impact practice. So it includes some of the theoretical base and research that shows the efficacy of service learning and student learning. It provides resources around integrating cultural competence and inclusive excellence into course design and implementation, and also offers an opportunity for faculty to think about their own identity in relation to community engaged work in the communities with which they work. It includes key principles, and these come straight from CCPH, and they're absolutely fantastic. 15 key principles for establishing and maintaining reciprocal community campus partnerships. It then moves into scaffolded steps for designing, implementing, and assessing service learning courses, both within the structure of the course, so assessing student learning, and then assessing the course overall in terms of scholarship of teaching and learning. It includes sample critical reflection activities, risk management considerations, and finally strategies for integrating service learning and community engagement into scholarship. As Elaine mentioned, a big piece of this project was imbuing this, the existing toolkit with new resources, emerging scholarship. The other two pieces that we tweaked, we moved cultural competence to its own unit, and we moved it to the very front with the operating under the assumption that it's extremely important that we train our students how to work respectfully and collaboratively within the communities that they serve. And then we also pulled critical reflection out as its own standalone unit because it is such a key piece of the service learning paradigm. So that's what it contains. Our process. So I mentioned that we reached out to California Campus Compact and CCPH, and we embarked on a collaborative editing process of the existing curriculum. Just going through all the links, making sure that they worked, that everything was still relevant and accessible. We then put out a call nationally for models, best practices, and resources from Campus Compact members nationwide. And so the curriculum is now supported by a number of examples from across the nation in each unit on things that are going well in a variety of institutional types. Finally, once we had redone the editing, added in new content, our units were all reviewed by service learning and community engagement experts at CCMW member campuses to make sure that we were speaking the right language. And then finally, it was submitted back for review to CCPH and our colleagues in the Campus Compact Network for final feedback before we actually made it live. So it was a highly collaborative process to develop the curriculum across any number of Compact affiliates and CCPH. It was really a great joy working with everyone. Where do you find it? Right there. I would click on that, but I'm not technologically savvy enough to then get back to my PowerPoint. I tried that for 45 minutes this morning. So write that down, or look at it later if you see this back on YouTube. But this will take you right to the EFI curriculum page on the CCPH website. So it is an electronic resource, and that's also intentional in that research moves quickly, and more research is being done on service learning practice every day. And so we want to make sure that we can keep it current and update it regularly with new resources and make sure that everything is live and accessible and of use to our member campuses. So I'm going to move now into showing you some of the different aspects of the curriculum through a series of screenshots. And I guess I'll pause here just in case there are any questions at this time.
I just want to let everyone know, when we send the evaluation, we will send this link when we send the evaluation and the YouTube link to the recording, but we'll also include this link. I'll try and also see if I can cut and paste it into the, which I can, into the chat box as well in a few minutes. I'm just working on that.
Great.
No other questions at this.
Awesome. Okay, so moving into the curriculum then. So when you click on this link, I'm going to show you what you see. And that's this page here, which is really tiny at the moment, but I will zoom in here in a minute. But there are a couple of things that I want to point out. So you have the introduction here to the curriculum and our basic process. Just below that are the macro learning objectives for the curriculum. And then below that is probably the most important part. And there are two things here I want to point out. So this link here is to the entire curriculum. So this is a PDF of the 150-page document. So If you wanted to print it, you could do it from this link. I mean, it's nice to have it there. I find it a little unwieldy just because scrolling through that many pages can be disorienting. So just below there, there are links to each individual unit within the curriculum. And so this is where I spend almost all of my time whenever I'm using the curriculum or presenting it. And what's nice about this too, I think, is that should you choose only to facilitate a piece of the curriculum, be it you want to offer a workshop on cultural competence or sustaining a service learning course, you don't have to scroll through the entire curriculum to try to get to the content that you're presenting. You can just go straight through these links here. So if we look a little bit more closely, the learning objectives match pretty well with what I described in terms of what's contained within the curriculum itself. And then this is the structure of how the units build upon one another. So we begin with a general overview of service learning, the theory and research that supports it, move into cultural competence for faculty and students both, then into establishing community campus partnerships. And then the next 7 units all have to do with, not 7, 4 units, 4 through 7, have to do with the actual course design itself. So moving through course objectives and outcomes, through planning, instruction, and service activities, critical reflection activities, and then finally developing course evaluations and improvement plans. Then units 8 through 10 are more, a little more macro outside of the classroom in terms of building service learning culture on campuses. So chapter 8 looks at building service learning course infrastructure, and then sustaining service learning courses in terms of funding, institutional support, long-term community partnerships, and then finally, if faculty are interested in scholarship of teaching and learning, etc., opportunities for scholarship around service learning itself. So that is the structure. And then the highlighter doesn't want to let me move to my next slide. There we go. Oh, that's weird. So my screen appears to be frozen, which is kind of strange.
You could try stop screening and stop sharing and then reshare.
Yeah.
In the meantime, while you're doing that, we have a question that maybe you can address.
Yeah.
Do you ever change the order of the units when you're doing the training? I would think.
Do I ever change them? I haven't personally, and in the campuses that I know who have facilitated it so far, that has not been the case, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. I think it depends on the needs of the faculty with whom you're working, and what you want to prioritize in a training. I think they don't necessarily need to be in sequential order.
So do you want to try sharing your screen again? And
I do.
Jump back into the PowerPoint.
Yes.
You might have to.
All right. Are we here? Can we all see it?
Yeah, we can see it. All right. Is the page you wanted?
I think so. Yeah. So this is a sample agenda that's included in the curriculum. So this is one way that you might offer the curriculum in a workshop on a campus. And this is traditionally how we offered the Engaged Faculty Institute as a 2-day experience. And the way that we offered it traditionally was 2 full days back to back. We've also offered it, the first year that we did it, we offered it 7 weeks in a row for a couple of hours every Friday, and that presented a lot of challenges because it was the beginning of spring semester and it's Colorado, and we encountered weather issues and whatnot, so that got really unwieldy. But this is one way that you might think about organizing the curriculum if you were interested in pursuing it this way. But I will share a couple of models at the end of the training here that don't adhere to this structure in terms of how campuses have actually implemented it themselves. Oops. Okay. All right. So within the curriculum, also the next piece within the introduction, this describes things that you will see in every unit. So each unit includes tips and in-depth content. So there is quite a lot of text that you may not necessarily assign to faculty, but the curriculum is also designed to be a standalone resource for faculty themselves who are interested in implementing service learning, so that they could actually pick up the curriculum and read through it and follow all the steps sequentially in order to create a service learning course. So it's perhaps a little more wordy and sort of a textbook fashion than you might be used to seeing. Each unit contains reflection questions based on the content itself, and then also on, which is the next bullet, case studies that are included to illustrate the different concepts within the unit in the curriculum. Not all units, but several units also have worksheets to help faculty think through, for example, learning outcome design or questions that they would want to consider in approaching a community partnership. So there are sort of hands-on activities that folks can do that you can just pull directly out of the curriculum. Every unit also contains a selected list of websites and readings for folks who want to know more, or links to models that further explicate whatever the unit happens to be about. And then finally, each unit is mapped with the symbols here that you see on the screen. So the little question marks indicate reflection questions. The little book symbol highlights suggested texts and readings. The wrench is tools and workbooks. The little screen is websites and online resources. And then the little file drawer, which I thought for a long time was a little suitcase, and I'm not sure why I thought that, but that indicates case studies from the field. So that's the organization. Okay, oops, I don't know why this is doing this, but okay. So I want to move now into showing you what an actual unit itself looks like. So I've chosen the introduction from Unit 3, which is establishing community campus partnerships. And so all of the units are modeled this way. So they begin with competencies for each unit. So what faculty should expect to be able to do, or what they should know by the end of that unit. A list of any handouts that are included with that unit. Worksheets that are there as well, the introduction to the topic, and then it moves right into the content. So this is the basic layout for the introductory page of each unit. Here's an example of reflection questions. So you may present the content itself either via PowerPoint or perhaps with a panel of faculty and community partners who've been working together for a long time or are new to the process. And these are reflection questions that you could use either in small group discussion or to advance large group discussion. And to help, in this case, helping faculty think through like what an ideal community partnership might look like as they think about what their learning objectives are in their courses, and what sort of experience might help students best comprehend those objectives. So that's what those look like. This is what the end of each unit looks like. So on the last page of every unit, you'll see this checklist, and this can be used both in terms of faculty just assessing quickly what they've learned, or it could be used as a checklist for when they actually go to develop the partnership, or in other units, be it structuring a critical reflection activity. There's a list in each one that summarizes all of the principles in the unit and how they may be applied to service learning course construction. That's followed then by the list of suggested websites and online resources, and then suggested tools and workbooks. And I would say it's probably about 50-50 in terms of resources that were already existing within the curriculum, and then a number of these were also submitted by campuses in that process to gather best practices from across the nation. And then finally, here's an example of a case study. So we had a number of colleges and universities submit program models, syllabi, etc., that you can use within facilitating the curriculum to illustrate a concept, to have them really dive in and critically think about how the case study reflects or doesn't the principles that they've learned so far, what they might do differently, what they can take away from it that feels right in terms of their own trajectory in service learning. And then there are some guiding questions there at the bottom of the case study that you can use. And of course, you can also augment those with your own, or just ask your own. So it's quite flexible in that way. Okay, I'm going to move into the trainer model now, but I want to stop for a minute and see if there are any questions on the curriculum itself.
So again, a reminder, if you have any questions, type them in the Q&A box down below. You just click on that box and a window will pop up and you can type in there. I'm not seeing any questions right now, but we want to give you a minute in case you are typing. And another reminder that we are recording this for those of you who joined us late, and we will be sending an evaluation via email to the person who signed up and registered for this webinar. And we will include with that a link to this recording on YouTube, as well as a link to this actual EFI curriculum that Katie's going through. Although I did put that in the chat window, we'll also send you the link again at the end. I'm not seeing any Q&A, so go ahead and continue on.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so when we launched the curriculum itself, it was, as I mentioned, in response in part just to the unsustainable nature of the way the EFI had been delivered up to that point. And also, out of a sense that our member campuses really wanted a resource that they could take and shape to meet their own institutional priorities or shape to fit their institutional type, or if it was offered in the context of a discipline. We wanted to give them something that was comprehensive but malleable. So in introducing the curriculum to our campuses, we hosted, I think we've done 4 now, facilitator training workshops, and these are one-day workshops where we go through the curriculum in a lot of detail and talk through how it might be implemented at the campuses that are present for the workshop itself. And so the slides I'm going to share now are slides or slightly augmented slides from that actual workshop that we do. So these are our training objectives for those workshops, and we hope that by the end of the experience and with the curriculum in hand, that facilitators will increase the capacity of their institutions to provide faculty development specific to community engaged learning. And I think in some senses this speaks to who shows up in the room also. We've had a number of folks from faculty development offices, as well as administrators in service learning centers or volunteer centers, and then a handful also of faculty who are service learning practitioners and are interested in bringing more folks into the fold in a formal way. To that end, another objective is growing communities of practice to more effectively meet training and development needs for the institution. And also, given that the curriculum is malleable, and as I mentioned before, if you wanted to move units around or just deliver a section of one and move to the other, that it really encourages campus ownership of the delivery of the curriculum and the process. We also wanted to be able to better assess the impact of engaged learning on students and communities through a common faculty development model. So if folks are all using similar strategies across service learning courses, is there assessment we can do about student learning as compared to courses that don't implement these particular practices, etc. And then we wanted to provide standardized professional development that mitigates risk for faculty, students, communities, and institutions. And I've noticed over the past 5 years or so that we get a lot of questions on risk management practices, things of that nature. So we tried to really attend to those within the curriculum, while still providing a lot of room for the fact that every campus is different, but with suggestions of how you might mitigate risk, who you might need to contact in order to do that, etc. This is our general agenda for that workshop. So you'll see that we spend a lot of time getting to know one another in the morning. And then we move into objectives and our process. And then I'll show you here in the next few slides how we move through the units, because it's a lot of information to get through, just given the density of the curriculum itself. And so it's a fairly structured but free-form process for campuses to really engage with one another to think through what implementation of the curriculum will look like. And then finally, at the end of the day, we do group reflection, and throughout the process, we have an action planning guide that we use that I'll talk about here in a minute. Okay, so this is sort of a more detailed account of the process itself. So we begin with the overview that's quite a bit more extensive than what I did at the beginning of the webinar in terms of actually showing folks how to navigate the curriculum using that sample agenda. I showed you the structure of the units, how to get back and forth between them, and things of that nature. And then for most of the day, this is our process for reviewing and discussing the curriculum. So we generally, as folks come into the room, as I mentioned, and this is true in every compact, we work with extremely diverse institutions. And so we make an effort to match participants from similar institution types, and if necessary, also by discipline. So they're already sitting at tables of their colleagues that at least are doing somewhat similar work. They have time to review the unit that we'll be discussing. It's not enough time. I mean, it's about 10 minutes or so to just sort of skim through and get the basic gist of what the curriculum looks like. And then we provide a series of structured questions about the content and how it applies or doesn't to their institutions, what they think would fly, what might not, what they're hearing from constituents on their member campuses about what they need and how this may intersect. And then we move into a discussion of actual facilitation strategies, and those are very nuts and bolts. So for instance, in a lot of our conversations, particularly with community colleges where the faculty are primarily adjunct, what are the logistics that need to be considered in order to provide that training to those folks? What's the right structure for delivering the content? Can you do a half-day workshop? Does it need to be like a 45-minute brown bag over lunch that happens month by month? So it's really a time for folks to just speak candidly and generate organically with one another ideas for what this would really look like when the rubber meets the road. So it's highly interactive, highly collaborative, and not terribly prescriptive. I mean, there are guiding questions, but we don't tell people how we think it should be done because we're not on the campuses ourselves. And clearly you all are your own best experts. And then finally, there is an action planning guide for facilitators. So at the end of each unit, everyone has an opportunity to write down their major takeaways from the unit itself, facilitation strategies that seemed particularly pertinent or useful, gaps, questions that they may have, that they can actually then take that guide with them back to their campuses to use as a sort of roadmap as they move on to facilitate EFIs on their campus. And what we do is we collect all of the notes about facilitation strategies from each group, and then we send those back out to those groups. But I'll talk here in a minute about what we're hoping to do in the longer term with the notes from those small groups. So this is an example of what one of those small group sessions would look like. So if you assume we've already presented the basic content about a unit and we're now moving into small group discussion, we always start with assumptions because we want folks to know where we were coming from in terms of developing the curriculum, like what our principles and values are. And so this particular section of the training is around course design. And so we wanted to put out up front that, when we present this, we are operating from the assumption that service learning, when intentionally designed, is academically rigorous and achieves student learning outcomes and community outcomes, which is a pretty, I don't know that, I believe that, so that's my assumption. So then we move into the curriculum review, and in this particular case, this is a lengthier part of the day, right? Because folks are looking at the whole service learning course design process, the actual nuts and bolts of learning objectives, what texts you would use, how service projects might fit or not with the course they're planning to teach. And then we ask folks to think about on their campuses and share with one another what barriers or supports may exist at their institution around service learning courses. So, is there good administrative support for folks who are new to this work and trying to develop these courses? Is the Teaching and Learning Center supportive and able to offer resources? Does the Service Learning Office or the Community Engagement Office offer any sort of support, be it through student fellows or through small grant opportunities, et cetera, for folks to actually implement what they learn at an EFI? Then we discuss specifically facilitation strategies, and this is really nice, I think, in the small group setting in particular, because rather occasionally on that first question, I think what can happen is you have one campus that has lots of resources and other campuses that maybe have lesser levels of those, and then it becomes more of a, well, we have this, oh, we don't have that, we have this, we don't have that. So this is more generative in terms of, as you're sitting in your group by institutional type, like, what have you seen that actually works in this setting in terms of helping facilitate workshops of this nature? And as we think together as a group, what pushback, what might we anticipate receiving, what will people really attend to, like what can we imagine that this would look like, and how can we mitigate areas where we think things may get a little sticky, et cetera. During this whole time, there is always at the table, someone is designated as a scribe, and there's chart paper at every table along with markers, and folks are encouraged to take notes on that chart paper so that they can then share out their findings with the larger group. And that's what we do at that point. And then finally, we wrap up that unit with that action planning sequence, so about 5 to 10 minutes for folks to jot through what their next steps are at their campus in terms of realizing the Engaged Faculty Institute on their campus. Where this leads. Okay, so with those notes, I said that we collect them all, and here is what we are attempting to do. So we've done a few of these workshops so far, and as the Engaged Faculty Institute spreads into other areas, we just did a Train the Trainer last spring, I think it was, in Utah, for example. We want to collect all these notes that are taken on specifically around facilitation by institutional type, and use those to inform facilitator guides by institutional type. So it's really a collaborative, generative process with the folks who attend these trainings to think through what'll work at your campus, and then how can we contribute this knowledge back to higher education as a sector so that we can help grow this movement at a more macro level. So that is our aim and our hope. So that's the first piece, is transcribing those notes as we get those and looking for common themes and what people seem to have energy around, what they don't. And then as folks actually facilitate the EFIs, and that's beginning to happen just here in this last year, the way I do this currently is through in-person interviews, but as more folks facilitate EFIs, we'll probably move to a survey model. But what did it actually look like implementing the EFI at your campus? What facilitation strategies actually worked specifically in this context? Where were the challenges? Where would you need more support? What works well right out of the gate, so that we can really build these comprehensive guides, again, that aren't prescriptive per se, but that are at least tailored enough by institutional type to really offer concrete support. Because that's definitely been a challenge that I've seen in this work, in these multi-institutional settings, is that we always have a group of campuses where nothing we talk about will work for them, just based on their student population, or whether they're a commuter campus or a community college, private college with traditional age students. So we really want to try to drill down a little bit, so that at least the resources that we're offering to be a companion guide to the curriculum help folks really think through the curriculum in the lens of institutional type, and then the idiosyncrasies of their own institution. I wanted to talk to you for just a minute about how the curriculum has been used so far following our Train the Trainer workshops. So I have two examples that I'd like to share because they're quite different, and they're both pretty cool. So Regis University, which is a private Jesuit university here in Denver, Metropolitan State University, which is an urban commuter campus, University of Colorado Denver, which actually shares its campus with Metro State, and Red Rocks Community College, all got together to put on an EFI with just 5 participants per institution at that event. And so they delivered it over 2 Friday sessions. It was 2 Fridays back to back. One week they hosted it at the community college, Red Rocks Community College. The next week they hosted it on the Auraria campus, which is where MSU Denver and University of Colorado Denver are located. And they pursued this model with the specific objective of promoting intercampus and interdisciplinary collaboration. So it was not only an opportunity for the faculty who were present to learn the content and think through what their service learning course design might be. It was also an opportunity for them to network with colleagues here in the metro area, and also an opportunity to think about what service learning partnerships might look like, be it with University of Colorado Denver and Red Rocks Community College. How might we interpret one another as community partners? And it was also the facilitation model that they used employed experts from all of their different campuses. So it was also a really cool opportunity for more advanced practitioners and folks in areas like offices of diversity and inclusion, et cetera, to network with one another within that same frame. And that was a pretty cool model, I thought. Sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, but equally interesting to me is what the University of Wyoming did with the curriculum. So they've established a faculty learning community through their Elbogen Center for Teaching and Learning. So it's a small cohort of faculty that meet biweekly over the course of an academic year. And they read one unit or a section of a unit at a time each week, or over each 2 weeks. And then they get together to reflect on what they've read, talk through how they might implement some of those practices, and then they actually pick practices to practice within the structure of the courses that they're teaching, and then they come back and reflect on their successes and challenges in doing so. And so that's a little more robust and intensive, but that's had great success as well, particularly with emerging practitioners in the field. And that's specifically out of their Office of Teaching and Learning as opposed to their Center for Community Engagement. How do we support our campuses in using the curriculum? So we have what's called the Engaged Campus Initiative, and since the curriculum was redesigned, we've really tried to organize that initiative around the curriculum as a cornerstone. And so the Engaged Campus Initiative is a suite of programs, primarily workshops and mini grants that we've tailored, at least for the foreseeable future, around the implementation of the curriculum. So the first thing that we do is we offer Engaged Campus Training grants. They're all small, but it's a small competitive mini grant to support folks who are actually interested in hosting EFIs on their campus. So in addition to the funding that we can offer, we also offer co-facilitation, consultation, help with assessment, evaluation, etc. So that's one way that we try to support, just in terms of getting the curriculum onto campus. Following that, for faculty who have successfully completed an Engaged Faculty Institute on their campus, they become eligible to apply for our Engaged Scholarship and Teaching grants. So these are mini grants as well, also around $1,500, to support either the implementation of a service learning course or a community engaged research project. And then finally, we've heard a lot from campuses across our region that recognition is really increasingly important, that we need to put a public face on this work for both the community and also for administration to understand what's happening in terms of the public good in the community around them. And so to that end, we've worked with the University of Northern Colorado, starting just this last year, to put on the Mountain West Community Engaged Scholars Summit. And this is a yearly one-day event that we hold that's open to all of our member campuses across the region. It's an opportunity for faculty to showcase their work. There's a large poster session where folks can network. There's advanced professional development on specific areas of community engagement or service learning. And then there are opportunities for roundtables for faculty to network around specific issues that they may be working on to help encourage inter-campus collaboration in this area. So those are some of the ways that we've tried to help campuses not just implement the curriculum, but really build the infrastructure and communities of support within the campus to help grow the work out of this model. And I think that's my final slide. Here's that's my contact information on the bottom there with the really long last name. And then Stephanie Scully is our executive director here, and she and I have worked on this curriculum and in developing and putting on these workshops together over the past couple of years, and she's also a great resource if you felt like reaching out to her. So I'll take any questions that you all have.
Yes, so a reminder that if you have any questions, to type them into the Q&A box and we can start going through those. Katie, thank you so very much for presenting all this information. And I just, want to reiterate that this is a great tool that you all can use to train other faculty. And I appreciate you also sharing some examples of how a couple of specific schools have utilized the curriculum and the training. Again, while we wait and see if anyone has any questions, just a reminder, we'll send out an evaluation and links to both the EFI curriculum link on the CCPH website, and then also in addition to the evaluation, there was one other thing. Oh, a link to the YouTube. So we have a question. Katie, I don't know if you can see it, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, I have it here.
Okay, why don't you read it out loud and see what.
Sure, yeah. So if I only had one afternoon, 4 hours, to help a community college campus get started with service learning and community engagement, which modules would you highlight? Oh, that's such a good question. So I would always, generally speaking, I would start with those first 3 units, which are about service learning generally, cultural competence, and most importantly, honestly, based in my experience with the community colleges here in Colorado and Wyoming, partnership building, because most of the community colleges with which I work don't have offices of service learning or community engagement that can help support the partnership building process. And so that's an area where in my work with community college faculty, folks have gotten stuck in the past because it can be kind of an overwhelming process. And then within course design, I would focus, if you read through the units, probably there in the beginning of in the learning objectives unit, what I've done also with community college presentations is encouraged folks to pick an existing learning objective and then think about how they could implement a small service learning project around that objective, so that it's not too onerous right out of the gate in terms of the amount of work that's done, because it does take a lot of planning and time, and the folks that I know in those settings are quite strapped. And the student population is generally somewhat different as well, in that there are a lot of non-traditional students, working folks, parents, etc. To really hone in a small way on that aspect of course design, so that they can think about integrating a piece of service learning to begin with, rather than trying to transform a course overall. So I'd probably stick in those first 4 units myself if I were trying to launch this right out of the gate at a community college.
Katie, maybe you can put the screen up that has the list of the chapters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the modules, the units.
Let me...
Otherwise, I could do it on mine.
No, I just have...
I have the website if you want me to share this. Okay.
Okay.
And in the meantime, if anyone else has questions, otherwise we'll probably go ahead and end this a little early. But
yeah, here we are. So
share your screen.
Is it not shared?
No, it's you must have hit unshare.
Oh, how weird.
So
See, this is what I mean. I really was made to be in the era of like overheads and transparencies. Serious, I loved it.
There we go.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So yeah, in terms of then of starting with the community colleges, I would probably stay up here, maybe in really units 3 through 5, because there are a lot of, and if you take some time, it does take some time to get through the curriculum, but there are ways to pull pieces out of those units into sort of manageable chunks in terms of content delivery. The other piece I might think about, and that'll be in the community campus partnerships piece, again, when I just think about community college infrastructure. I've been asked several times here to present specifically on risk management and service learning, because there's not a lot of support for that for faculty, at least here in this region as well. And so that partnerships piece covers a lot of that information too. That's always, I always get lots of questions about that in that setting. So I hope that's helpful. And I'm also happy to talk, like, seriously, if anyone wants to like talk on the phone or Zoom. Obviously I'm a wizard at Zoom, so if you want to try to do a one-on-one with me that way too, I'm more than game. So,
well, since we don't have any other Q&As coming in, and I think we've given folks time to type those in, is there any final comments that you want to make, Katie?
yeah.
Wait, actually, okay, no. It's not a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
I got all excited. Anyway, okay, go ahead, Katie.
I would just say that I am really open. I know we're Mountain West, but I really am more than happy to spend time with anyone who wants to try to think through this process, and that the more folks that attend to it and take the leap to give it a try, the better. I think we can support the field overall, because we get so much more data about what works and what doesn't that we can share back with you all. So I'm really thankful for your interest, and I hope that it's been useful, and I'd love to see folks give it a go on their campus.
And we should plug that, aren't you doing a pre-conference at the Continuums of Service?
Yeah.
On this?
Yep. Yeah, so that'll be a full day, much more intensive experience for folks to really dive into the curriculum and think about what that training looks like on their campus and stuff. So yeah, that's absolutely true.
So that's April 6th this year in Denver, Colorado. For those of you who may not be aware of this is the Western Region Campus Compact Continuums of Service Conference. And I'll make sure that Piper also includes a link to that conference in the follow-up we send out, so that if you're not registered, you can register for that conference, and we would love to have you there. It's going to be a really great conference with lots of, beyond the pre-conference that Katie will be presenting this EFI at, there's a ton of other wonderful presentations and speakers at that conference. So on that note, and not seeing any other questions, I'm going to thank you all for participating. We appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll see you back on an upcoming webinar. And thank you so much, Katie. And we're gonna end the recording and end the video as well. So thank you all. You can click on the bottom right. There is a red button, a thing that says leave meeting, and you can just click on that to exit.